Why we procrastinate, the psychology of delay. Hi everyone. Welcome back to Mind Body Balance 459. I'm so excited to have you here today, especially because we're going to tackle a topic that almost all of us struggle with: procrastination. If you've ever found yourself pushing an important task aside in favor of watching YouTube videos, scrolling through social media, or even cleaning the entire house instead of doing your work, then this video is for you. Today we're going to explore why we procrastinate, the psychology behind it, and most importantly, how we can break this cycle and get things done. So, let's jump right in. The allure of immediate gratification. One of the biggest reasons we procrastinate is because of the way our brains are wired to seek immediate gratification. We're all familiar with that moment when you're sitting down to work on a project, and then, bam, you suddenly feel an irresistible urge to check your phone or watch a quick episode on Netflix. The task you were supposed to do feels overwhelming or unappealing, while the instant pleasure of those small distractions seems so much easier to indulge in. So, what's happening in our brains? When we choose an activity like watching a video, our brains release dopamine, the chemical responsible for making us feel good. Dopamine is like a reward system that tells us, "Great job," even though the task we're doing might not be productive at all. It's a quick burst of pleasure that feels satisfying in the moment, but it doesn't contribute to our long-term goals. In fact, this constant seeking of short-term rewards is one of the main reasons we keep putting off tasks that actually require effort. The challenge here is recognizing that pattern and trying to break the cycle. A good strategy to deal with this is to delay gratification by rewarding yourself for completing small portions of your task. For example, you could allow yourself a 10-minute break to check your social media after finishing a particular section of your work. These small rewards can help retrain your brain to associate productivity with positive feelings. Fear of failure. Another major reason we procrastinate is the fear of failure. Many of us have experienced the feeling of staring at a blank document or a blank canvas, knowing we need to start, but feeling completely paralyzed because we're scared we won't do it perfectly. It's easier to delay the task than to face the possibility of making mistakes or not meeting our own expectations. This fear often stems from our inner critic, the voice inside our head that tells us we're not good enough or that we'll fail. It's a defense mechanism that protects us from the discomfort of failure, but in doing so, it also prevents us from trying. The more we listen to this fear, the harder it becomes to take any action at all. One of the most effective ways to overcome this is to shift our mindset. Instead of focusing on perfection, try focusing on progress. Remind yourself that done is better than perfect. Starting is the most important part of any task, and even small steps forward are valuable. By reframing failure as a learning opportunity rather than something to be avoided, we can reduce the anxiety that holds us back from starting in the first place. Perfectionism, the paralyzing pursuit of flawlessness. Speaking of perfection, let's dive into how perfectionism plays a huge role in procrastination. It may sound surprising, but striving for perfection can actually prevent us from taking action altogether. When we set impossibly high standards for ourselves, we often feel like we need everything to be flawless before we even begin. The thought of not doing something perfectly can stop us in our tracks. Think about it. How many times have you avoided starting a project or cleaning your space because you wanted everything to be just right? The idea of waiting for the perfect moment to begin is a trap that keeps us stuck. Perfectionism often leads to all-or-nothing thinking, where we either expect to do something perfectly or avoid doing it altogether. The solution here is to break things down into smaller, more manageable steps. You don't have to start with the perfect plan or the perfect materials. Starting messy is okay. It's about progress, not perfection. When you focus on completing small, incremental tasks, the overall job becomes less overwhelming, and you're more likely to take action. The key is to get started, and the rest will follow. Decision fatigue and mental exhaustion. Another factor that contributes to procrastination is decision fatigue. Decision fatigue happens when our brains get overwhelmed by having to make too many decisions throughout the day. When we're mentally exhausted, we start to feel like we can't take on any more decisions, so we avoid making them altogether. This mental exhaustion can make even simple tasks seem more daunting than they really are. When we're faced with a task, our brain might look at all the steps involved and feel like it's just too much to handle. We may then choose to procrastinate because the thought of making all those decisions feels too overwhelming. One way to combat decision fatigue is by simplifying your tasks. For example, instead of worrying about every detail of a project, focus on the next step and take it one piece at a time. You don't have to plan everything out perfectly. Just focus on what you need to do right now. Moving past procrastination. So now that we've explored some of the main psychological factors behind procrastination, how can we move past it? The key is to start with self-compassion. Don't beat yourself up for procrastinating. Understanding why it happens is half the battle. Recognize the patterns that cause you to delay and take small, consistent steps to change them. Start by setting achievable goals and breaking larger tasks into smaller, more manageable pieces. This way, you won't feel as overwhelmed, and you'll be more likely to take action. Focus on progress, not perfection, and don't be afraid to embrace imperfection. Remember, it's better to get started, even if it's messy, than to never start at all. In conclusion, procrastination is something that everyone experiences at some point in their lives, and it's completely normal to feel the urge to delay certain tasks. After all, we all have moments where we'd rather do anything but the thing we know we need to focus on. However, while procrastination is a natural part of being human, it doesn't need to hold us back or control our lives. By understanding the psychology behind why we procrastinate, whether it's the lure of immediate gratification, the fear of failure, the need for perfectionism, or simply feeling mentally exhausted and overwhelmed, we can start to recognize the patterns that trigger procrastination in our own lives. Once we understand these triggers, we gain the power to break free from procrastination's grip. The key is not to be harsh on ourselves when it happens, but instead to address the underlying reasons why we procrastinate. For example, if we're giving into the immediate reward of distractions like social media or Netflix, we can learn to create healthier boundaries by setting up small rewards that align with our long-term goals. If fear of failure is the culprit, we can reframe the way we think about mistakes, seeing them as opportunities to learn and grow rather than as roadblocks. For those who struggle with perfectionism, embracing imperfection and focusing on progress over perfection can be incredibly freeing. And when decision fatigue strikes, breaking tasks into smaller, manageable chunks can make everything feel much more achievable. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Mind Body Balance 459 for more tips on living a balanced and productive life. And in the comments below, let me know, what's one thing you're going to tackle today? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.